good rest for us.
And you get hitting in the steel.
Nice. Fair enough, yeah, if you did want to come to...
It's almost 100 years old. Pretty soon.
Why not?
Please let all passengers remain seated for the duration of this trip with your arms, heads and your legs safely inside the body of the boat at all times. I'm afraid we do have a slight crocodile problem on the Regent's Canal, so anything you're dangling out of the windows, gentlemen, safely inside the body of the boat. There are emergency exits, two at the front, two at the rear of the boat. There are fire extinguishers, two at the front, two at the rear, and there is life-saving equipment on the top of the boat as well, should we need it. Hopefully we won't, we usually don't have to sink things in one day. Anyway, as I say, my name is Felix, welcome aboard the London Waterbus. We are about to leave the Grand Union Canal. This canal goes to Birmingham. It'll take you about 3 weeks to get to Birmingham. You pass through plenty of locks. It's quite a tiresome trip actually. But this canal does go all the way up to the Midlands. The other end of the canal is very close to us. It's Paddington branch of the Grand Union Canal. Goes off to Paddington. We'll be there in about 5 minutes from here. We are leaving the Grand Union Canal. We are now entering the Regent's Canal, which goes to Limehouse Basin in East London. We're also in Little Venice, this area around the canal here, named by a local resident and poet, Sir Robert Browning. He lives here, he spent time in Venice as well, and he believed this area looked a lot like Venice, hence the name. From that we can safely assume he never actually saw Venice. He had a faint idea that both areas had water in them. He was a poet though, they aren't particularly well known for making sense, we'll give him that one. We are now on the Regent's Canal, built between 1810 and 1820. The house to our left is the Junction House, or the toll collector's house. A toll collector would have been housed there at the junction of two canals to collect tolls from passing boats to pay for the canal's operation. The street to our right is Maida Avenue. We are in Maida Vale now, sometimes known as Media Vale, for a number of showbiz stars and media personalities living around here. There's a blue plaque on the house to our right as well. Oh, this is the electric barge as well. This is Beecham, floating classroom as you can see. You can also have private events on here. The profits from the private events go on hosting the classroom, so it's a non-profit venture. Very cool. But there was a blue plaque on the house behind us now where I'm pointing, and that's because that's where John Masefield lived, a novelist and poet laureate who lived there between 1907 and 1912. That cream house to our left on Blomfield Road, that's Noel Gallagher's. That's where Noel Gallagher lives. Don't worry if you don't recognise that name, he is a bit of a has-been. He got a bit of fame in the 90s as part of a Beatles tribute act called Oasis. Yeah, don't worry, they never got very big. His neighbour is Bill Curbishley, who is the former manager of The Who. To our left as well, the cream-coloured boat is Bellona. Bellona is owned by Dave Stewart of the Eurythmics. If you remember him, he owns Bellona to our left there. He also once lent it to Bob Dylan, who filmed a music video on it for Blood in My Eyes. So quite a well-known narrator. If you've seen the new music video, he was sitting on the front, different colour though, at that time Bellona was. Her and her neighbour were both in films, have been in films, Mayflower and Bellona. Finding Your Feet most recently, with Dimby's Ball, Bill Nighy, etc. Anyway, Coming up on our right here, the big ivy-covered house. This was actually the subject of a bidding war between Barbra Streisand and Madonna. This is One Park Place Villas. They both wanted it, they kept driving the price up and up and up. At the end of the day though, only one of those queens could win, and that was of course Michael Flatley, the creator of Riverdance. He bought this house for £20 million. £20 million for One Park Place Villas. He actually set a world record for the most expensive first-time purchase buying this house. As prior to this, he had lived only in hotels. He sold the property on for a tidy profit to Bill Kenwright, the West End musical and film producer. Flatley moved back to Ireland into a castle, much better suited to housing his collection of fairy slippers and toasty makers. The rather ominous red brick Gothic church to our right is owned by the London Catholic Apostolic Sect. And contrary to what the name suggests, this is a Protestant sect. They have no affiliation with the Vatican. They are very secretive. It's hard to find information about them online. We do know that they own lots of valuable property around West London, and that they have hereditary membership, which means they have a worldwide congregation of around 4. Also, if you've seen the film The Omen, this building has absolutely nothing to do with it. So that's Maid Avenue. Back to our left, Blomfield Road. Other than Noel Gallagher and Bill Curbishley, we have names like Paul Weller living on Blomfield Road. Paul Weller, Jarvis Cocker from Pulp as well. Ronnie Wood from the Rolling Stones, the drummer, he lives here. Lulu lived here until quite recently. If you're a fan of English literature, Nancy Mitford as well. A few names like that. Around here in Maida Vale, Bjork as well we have. Tony Robinson, the list goes on. I think it does earn its nickname of Media Vale. We of course have the BBC Maida Vale Studios, recently sold off actually in Maida Vale, and then Abbey Road Studios is a short walk from here. Turning off to our left, we have Randolph Avenue, where I live. Now, it's also where, in Victorian times, Victorian gentlemen would often house their mistresses. So this is the origin of the term randy. Randy, that comes from Randolph Ave. Those naughty Victorians. There's also a rumour that the great Sir Charles Dickens actually popped his clogs visiting a mistress down here. Very embarrassing for his family. They had to smuggle the body out of the apartment to try and avoid a scandal. But what made it particularly difficult to hide the manner of his demise was the fact that his coffin lid wouldn't close for about 4 days. Oh no. Alec Guinness lived down there as well. Coming up on our right, there is a blue plaque at 3 Maida Avenue, because that's where Arthur Lowe lived from Dad's Army. He played Captain Mannering. And up ahead we have the Maida Hill Tunnel. The Maida Hill Tunnel, 248.5 meters long. This tunnel goes underneath the Edgware Road. You may notice as this tunnel begins, the towpath to our left actually stops. The towpath, of course, to our left. This is where our horses would have walked, towing us along with them. However, we couldn't have been towed through here as there is no towpath. We'd have to stop here, unhitch our horses and leg our way through, which would involve laying a plank over the front of our boat and walking along the walls of the tunnel, dragging our 30-ton vessel and our up to 20 tons of cargo along with us. As you can imagine, quite a tiresome and tedious process. Street kids and orphans here had offered to help us do this, made for a penny or a crust of bread. They were so poor they couldn't afford boots or shoes and wrapped their feet in rags, hence the term toe rag as well. And I will remind you, we do have a slight crocodile problem in the tunnel, so do please be sure to keep arms, legs and legs inside the boat. No, only kidding, no crocodiles, that would be very silly. We have alligators. mid-19th centuries. That's where the canals exist in this country and actually the rest of Great Britain as well. They were for the railway began, and from that point onwards, the railway networks began to replace the canals in the mid-19th century onwards. We're going underneath Lisson Grove. Over our heads is Lisson Grove, the home of the Seashell, the seafood restaurant. It was the favourite of the late Queen and of Ed Sheeran. So they didn't get recognised when they went, actually both went in disguise, went as each other. This Friday, you know where to come. We're going to pass the beginning of a low red wall to our left, and this is the remains of a stables. There have been horses stabled down here. You can see the cutouts of arches actually in the wall as we pass by it. There were about 250 horses stabled down here, and they would have been used to tow horse carts from a coal depot, which would have been to the left of the power substation. And they would have towed those horse carts full of coal out across the capital. And I learned something quite interesting a couple of weeks ago. My idea was that coal was brought down from Birmingham along the Grand Union on narrowboats and then shipped here on the Regent's Canal. In fact, it was more efficient to bring coal down along the east coast of England on seagoing boats, then transport them onto the Thames, and then to Limehouse Basin, which, as I say, is the end of this canal. And then they would have travelled on larger coal barges that are about twice the width of this narrowboat, straight to here, because it was quite an important hub for distribution of coal, the Lisson Wide. Quite a busy, bustling area, that means. Lots of canal traffic, lots of burning coal from the coal power station, black smoke billowing from the chimneys. Sure, it would have been quite a scene. Very important for industry and commerce. It's a bit more tranquil though nowadays, as you can see, for the boats that moor here. They are on a private residential mooring. So these are all houseboats that people do live aboard. Most of the boats we'll see today are actually houseboats. There are some work boats out, and our sister boat is a trip boat, of course, as is this one. These are also on a private mooring. So to moor your boat here, you'll have to own the mooring. That will set you back about £80,000. £80,000 to buy a mooring here in the Lisson Wide. Does sound quite dear, though it is seen as a relatively cost-effective way of living in an affluent area of northwest London. That's, of course, if you don't mind the sight of the power substation right on your doorstep. This is the Lisson Wide we're now coming to the end of. We are, of course, as well in St John's Wood. We left Lisson Grove. We are in St John's Wood. You know the area, or if you're a fan of cricket, this is the home of Lord's Cricket Ground. Look to your right, there is a grey circular plaque on the wall to our right, and that's there to commemorate the second site of Lord's Cricket Ground, which is once right here where we are now passing on the canal. Lord's Cricket Ground was moved here in 1811 by Thomas Lord, the founder of the club. Unbeknownst to Lord, though, this would be slap bang in the middle of the canal being built. The canal building company had two options. They could either build a massive detour that would have been rather expensive, or they could pay him off. They, of course, opted for the latter. They slipped him £4,000. In today's money, that's over £386,000. So, quite understandably, he was happy to move his club further northwest to where it now is. How far is this train, He did move his club further northwest to where it now is on St John's Wood Road. You walk up these stairs and turn left around the roundabout, you get them back 5 minutes. We We're going to pass through some rather lavish properties either side of us as we are now entering Regent's Park. First off, coming up on our right, we do have Hanover Lodge. That's a Grade 2 listed building that was built in 1827 by John Nash. The next building along to our right, we have the architect Quinlan Terry. These properties sit on the bank of the canal and also overlook the Regent's Park, so a fantastic location. Each of them incorporate design features typical to different architectural styles from the 18th and 19th century in Europe, classical architectural styles. They are reproductions though, as I say, they were built at the end of last century and the start of this century. To our left, followed by Decimus Burton. It does have the third largest private garden in London, so we're passing to our left the third largest private garden in London, quite big. The property was sold in 1987 to the Sultan of Oman for £45 million. Despite the hefty price tag though, he never set foot in it once in his 40 years of owning it, preferring instead to stay in prestigious Mayfair hotels whilst in London. So it's been empty for the last 40 years, apart from gardeners and security guards. What a travesty. Nice big wave to our left, everyone. We have Milton, big waves, there's Rube, and there is also Callum. We do still have this garden to our left, as I say, empty for about 40 years. Good investment for the Sultan though, it now has an estimated value of £500 million. So if anyone has that sort of cash laying around, his nephew is looking to sell it because he died, the Sultan. His nephew inherited the property. If you're looking to sell, let me know. I get a finder's fee if you go through me of 10%. To our right, we have the last in the row of Freemasons. Four of these villas are owned by embassies. As far as I can tell though, no one lives in these. The River Tyburn is one of London's 9 underground rivers, and it's now flowing over our heads in an aqueduct, in a pipe. So we are indeed passing underneath a river. Not every day you do that, unless you are me, and you do it 6 times a day. But that was the River Tyburn. It does come briefly out the ground to pass over the canal. This is the site of the largest non-wartime explosion in English peacetime history. This occurred in the early hours of the 2nd of October 1874 when a vessel, the Tilbury, was passing underneath it carrying a cargo of 5 tons of gunpowder, petroleum and peanuts. Wow, clever mix. It's a very volatile cargo. It was noticed by someone probably lighting a match for a pipe, and kaboom! Quite a big bang, the biggest in English peacetime history. If you look to your left, there's a tree with a long scar running down its middle. This is as a direct result of the blast. And also to our left, the pillars. The first and last pillar, you'll be able to see 200 years ago, 1828, it was a private research facility for the study of animals. The zoo then succumbed to public pressure and opened its doors to the unwashed masses in 1847. It now houses 20,000 inhabitants. 19,546 of these are ants. I have counted. As we enter the zoo, have a look out to your right for looking for a pair of warthogs. Looking for warthogs. I was surprised to see Pumbaa out yesterday because they usually stay inside till about 8 all the time. Oh, and look to our right, we have African hunting dog. We have a singular African hunting dog. There are African hunting dogs in this enclosure. There's Stephen up there, an African hunting dog. These are dogs from Africa, they are good at hunting. That's the name. We saw 2 actually. That's the canal side entrance. This is where we would have stopped pre-COVID. That was the zoo, London Zoo. And now to our right we have what was the old Giraffe House. It's now administrative buildings. And also we have next along from that what would have been flats for zookeepers, but now used to feed the many fussy eaters that live at London Zoo. We'll hear a horn in a moment. There we go. Now please don't be alarmed, that horn just means that we're sinking. Oh no. You're being very brave. It's noble going down with the ship, I'll give you that. As we sink, we're going to see a pretty weird sight in the middle of London. It will be a floating Chinese pagoda, which is a Chinese restaurant on the canal. That will be on our right in a moment. So Camden already, this is the Feng Shang Princess, which is a floating Chinese restaurant. Pretty cool, pretty weird to see in London, I know, on the canal. We actually came here for my leaving to do the Waterbus. Don't panic, going back again. One thing I'll say about the food here, the duck was rather fresh. It is the favourite of Sir Paul McCartney as well. We're going to John's Wood, although we are quite near to that. Very sad old Victorian Anglican church, completely gutted. I went past it a few days ago, but we have actually a still standing St. Mark's, luckily to our left here. It was though flattened in the Blitz, it was completely flattened, but they rebuilt it and reopened it in 1957, which was the building centenary. It now has a nice cafe, and the gardens are used for fundraising events by the London Zoo. Someone told me that the entire floor is covered in sawdust because the zoo has special services here to bless the animals. I can't confirm that though because St. Mark's is Anglican. Also going to pass alongside on our right, St. Mark's Crescent. St. Mark's Crescent. The houses here are quite special. They actually have the right to end of garden mooring. So if you own the property, you own a mooring at the end of your garden where you can stick a boat. Quite cool, quite rare in London. The tall cream house to our right is where Noel Fielding apparently has a flat. So I'm not sure if I believe that. The boats to our left, these are continuous cruisers. They are on a temporary 7-day mooring. So after 7 days, you'll see in van. That was set right here, based on the as well. She hung out around here in her van. To our left, there's a cool boat called Scrumpy. Weird thing about Scrumpy, she better put a coat on. It doesn't move. Pink House. This was on Grand Designs about 9 months ago now, maybe a bit longer. This house was on Grand Designs. Pretty cool. If you don't know Grand Designs, they do cool things with houses. They convert them, they do renovations, stuff like that. What they did here is they actually dug 3 subterranean levels into the property. They now have a swimming pool, private gym, and a garage as well all on the ground. Very flashy. I'll be moving in next week, of course. That long strip of glass going down the left side of the building is one-way glass, so you can't see in because those are all toilets. So in your morning poo, you can look out on the canal. Very cool. We are going to pass underneath, in a moment, the London and Birmingham Railway Bridge. 1837, that's the first mainland railway into London. So we've completely redone the structural members here. As you see, there's new blue shiny metal beams. This was done over the Christmas holiday. All that rest was collapsing. There you go. Right now, closed for a while. And as the aroma of herbal cigarettes begins to increase, we are entering Camden. Coming up on our right, the Pirate Castle. Sorry to disappoint you, it's not a real castle. There aren't any pirates. It is a community centre that offers kayaking, canoeing and paddleboarding to young and older people alike. They volunteer on here. Their aim is to get people out onto the canals to learn about water safety. So a very good scheme. As you can see, there's the canals, kayaks, canoes and paddleboards there. To our left, is that one? No, it's not, I'm lying. The building to our left in a moment will be the Henson building, named after Jim Henson, who is the man who created the Muppets. He used the top floor as his workshop actually, so the characters from the Muppets were once created here, the top floor of the Henson building. And to our right, Gilby House, behind these rather scruffy boats. Gilby House, the white building. That's as in guilty gin. It was once the largest bonded gin warehouse in the entire country. There would have been around 200 of security guard there. How many came? He's making a music video. There's also work going on here, as you can see, to this Grade 2 listed historic bridge. You can't really see it underneath the scaffolding. There is a tunnel underneath that bridge as well to our left. That is the Dead Dogs Tunnel. The name comes from the number of dead dogs standing up floating there. It was used for canal shipping, and above it was a railway terminal, so this facility was allowed to lead trans shipping between the railways and canals. Quite handy. And up ahead, you'll be glad to hear that's the Wetherspoons that you'll need after listening to me babble on for 45 minutes. There's the ice wharf, where big blocks of ice would be stored after being transported from the glaciers in Norway. At the ice wharf, before refrigerators freezes. The black and white bridge is a horse bridge there. If you go up there, look out for the notches I mentioned earlier that we saw on the pillars. You might be able to see them from here actually. We are going to be turning into our wharf now, so I'm afraid we are at the end of our trip, everyone. An absolute pleasure hosting you. I hope you have a good time with us. If I can remind passengers, please do remain seated with arms, toes and legs safely inside the boat until I give you the go to stand up. Once again, my name is Felix. Your skipper today has been Joe. If you have enjoyed the time, please feel free to give us a review on TripAdvisor. If you haven't, my name is Ben. Once you leave as well, there is a tip jar. I think you've done a particularly good job. Anyway, guys, it was a great time in Camden. It's been a pleasure having you, and I hope to see you again next time.
Just wants to know guys or out to dinner just so she knows it now.